Alright, so we're going to be talking about Koth Demo and Asheville today. We're going to be talking about mid fights, how to hold the point, and just general offense advice and how to push out of spawn. First, we're going to be talking about mid fights. So the first thing you want to do is learn the rollout. The rollout should look like this. You're going to get a buff from your medic. Your shutter. It is good to keep the medic range for beam. If the medic's out of range at this point, you will need it to get a little bit of an earlier arrow on the rollout. You might not get to mid with full HP, so make sure you get that full buff to 260 before you place the second. Jumps you to shutter, third sticky jumps you through here. I like to jump a little bit shorter because what you want to do is you're going to walk towards the shutter and get an arrow. And if you delay a little bit too long, you might get to mid a little bit later than the other team's demo. But you get the arrow, you should be at 175. And then you peek out a shutter and you're on mid. So the first thing you need to know is you're going to be getting to the mid at around the same time as the other team's demo. So you want to try and pre-fire the stick immediately at the shutter because you know the demo's going to get to mid at the same time as you. But if he gets there a little bit later than you, then you also have that stick as a kind of, that first sticky will kind of be your free damage. When he gets to mid, you hit him for the first stick, he'll be low, and you will have a health advantage on mid. And that's actually really, really good on maps like Asheville because this map is kind of an RDM map where the team who kind of does more of the DM and has more of a health advantage on mid will end up just winning the mid overall. So it's good to kind of learn your rollout, be fast on the rollout, and hit the initial damage early. Now, again, the demo will get to mid at the same time as you, but there are other classes that I'll try to roll out through shutter and pressure you as well, and the classes will be as followed. So the demo is going to be the first class that gets to do the shutter, but right afterwards it's going to be the scout. Afterwards, pyro and spy, because those classes are relatively faster than the other combo classes like medic and heavy. Pyrojack with the pyro with the pyrojack at least will be faster, and then you'll have medic and heavy who will be getting whipped by the soldier. Any other classes that will be getting whipped might also get it, but most of the time the soldier will prioritize whipping the medic and heavy, so they will get there relatively at the same speed. Heavy a little bit slower. Sniper as well will roll out shutter and pressure you afterwards. The sniper will be either looking for the medic or the other team sniper, or maybe looking to headshot you at the beginning of mid. And then I isolated the soldier in the because soldier and NG will actually primarily not be rolling out of shutter. They will be rolling out of bats most of the time, and I'll show you why. On a mid fight, the engineer will most likely put his mini sentry on bats because this mini sentry covers all of point. It also denies roof pressure, so if your team does want to roll out to the roof here, then the engineer's mini will kind of meet them and they'll be stuck playing in that position there. So what will end up happening is engineer the soldier on bats. Soldier will be playing on bats to maybe look for a bomb on the combo on point. Or say the other team's demo hits a lot of damage on your combo and you, then the soldier might want to try and play off that damage and bomb off of their bats onto your combo. Now, that is what the rollout's going to look like. How the mid will play out is once both demos and all the combo classes are through shutter or able to get through shutter eventually, it will come down to DM, so you want to make sure the demo you're able to hit your stickies efficiently and are able to spread out your damage a lot, or confirm kills on stuff that you're hitting early. Maybe if the demo takes too much damage early and you're able to hit him with a pipe or another sticky and he dies, then your team will have a player advantage, which will make the mid a lot easier, especially if it's the demo, because then once the demo's dead, you're kind of up on that spam game, and you'll be able to win the mid purely through damage, most likely. And it'll either push the other combo out, or maybe they want to stay in and then they'll end up wiping if your team plays it correctly based off of the pick. All the while, again, you're looking for sniper, you're looking for the other team's soldier, and eventually the spy, who will eventually cross in and look for either a stab or maybe just revolver you from distance if you're too low. So, again, if you are worried about the soldier bombing you, because like I said, he is looking to bomb you in the mid-fight or pressure you early enough, you can always have someone like your scout or your pyro looking to deny him. I would not prefer having the heavy to deny the soldier unless everyone on the other team is no longer pushing you and that's the only thing alive. Because you don't want to have a heavy on mid kind of walking with you on mid, just an extra body on point with you pressuring. So for me personally, I like to have my heavy next to me on point, either soaking damage with me or just peeking the same stuff I'm shooting. So I kind of like hitting the demo first, and then everything's through shutter, and then everything through shutter will either not have a buff anymore or it might be taking a lot of spam from me. So if the demo takes a lot of damage, my heavy and other class will be there just to clean up the damage with me. So if you end up winning the mid, it'll be because you either got a lot of picks on them and they ended up dying, losing their medic potentially, or you guys just hit a lot more damage than them and they had to rotate out of the shutter position, or ramp players had to leave, and then they have to set up either on their bats or run to spawn. So mid will be one once you have the picks or the damage where the other team's no longer on mid or they have to leave, and you're able to just cap the point afterwards. Now, I put this mini here early because I want to stress that this is an important mini to focus on demo. A lot of classes will have a hard time dealing with this mini from the position they play from, so classes like the Scout might not be able to play as efficiently with the mini being up. You specifically will also be fighting the mini as well because it might be getting wrangled, so it'll be harder for you to fight their shutter players as well as the demo if this mini is still alive. So I suggest looking at this mini the entire time, eventually killing it. There you go. Yeah, eventually killing the mini, and then you won't have to worry about that mini until the engineer decides to rebuild it, but yeah. So let's talk about if you win the mid. So we gain the mid pressure, they all leave, and you have point. If your whole team's ready and in position to set up a hold, then this is what it kind of should look like. So as the demo, you do want to try to play a little bit more forward here on this map. You don't want to kind of play back here, because if you play back here, you're giving them all a ramp to walk through, you're letting them walk through shutter. Even the sticks, if you had it above it and lower, once they kill the stickies, you're going to have to try and set them instantly. But if they're already through the shutter afterwards and you're not able to place the stickies fast enough, then they have shutter for free. Stuff like bats can peek like this off of bats and like towards the fans here. If they peek wide enough and you're just giving them all the space, then they can just get it back onto middle pretty much uncontested. Unless it's from your roof player, which is most likely just going to be your scout, but your scout can't pressure them all at the same time as you. So again, you want to try and play forward here. By default, you're going to want to have sticks on the shutter. So my sticks would probably be looking like this. Six here just to deny the heavy if he peeks from this position, because like a lot of heavies will opt to peek from this angle here just to fight point, and also it doesn't let you peek this angle here unless it's on the fans, but it also makes so the heavy can peek wide and fight the guys close here if there are any people, so that's what these sticks are for. I also like to put the sticks above the shutter like this. Put them a little bit higher above the shutter as well if you can, and I'll explain why. Now these stickies are really important because if the demo opts to walk out, or any classes like to walk out of shutter, they don't clear these, they will die to these stickies above the shutter. Also, if you put them high enough, clear from the shutter itself without peeking wide like this. Crouch under like this, but it is kind of hard to clear. So classes trying to get through shutter will be kind of locked on the shutter until someone clears those. So it's good to keep the sticks kind of on top of the shutter and near the shutter so they can't actually walk through it efficiently. You can also trap off bats. Some people like to trap off this corner here because people like to peek off of bats like this. You can also trap off these areas like this, or trap off this itself. This is a decent trap, but a lot of teams try not to drop off of bats that wide anymore. Most teams like try to go through shutter, and people on bats eventually drop later or just rotate through shutter to leave shutter. And maybe some people like soldiers don't need to worry about the stickies because they might try to bomb over the roof, right? So I try to primarily put my stickies here and have one player on roof watching their bats, which will most likely be a scout, or maybe if you want a pyro as well, just to have that extra level of spam on the roof. But yeah. Classes like your medic and heavy, most likely your medic will be playing kind of on ramp here, kind of buffing you when they can. They don't want to peek this angle here, because like I said, a sniper can just peek this angle through shutter, and if heavy opens the shutter for him and the sniper peeks like this, sniper can easily kill your medic if he's playing right there. He might get 1 or 2 free shots before you can pressure him, and then your medic dies with Uber there. That's not a good thing. So you want to make sure your medic's playing in a position where he's able to Uber you but not get headshots. So around this point here is actually fine. Maybe behind the toxic barrel like this if he doesn't want to get spammed by the demo from bats. And then your heavy, there are a few situations where your heavy can play forward. One of them being he can play next to this box, so maybe he can pressure the people from bat if they peek you as demo. He can give you that level of support on demo. Or heavy can just play back here. Maybe they're looking the sack wave. The heavy can play a little further back to look for the people looking at the roof here. He can deny people jumping over a roof looking to force your medic or kill you. But I like to have my heavy a little bit more forward, so my heavy will play right here. I'll play out kind of wide looking at the shutter like this. Sticks in the same spot like I said. And classes like Sniper will be playing kind of towards toxic barrels here, or he can opt to play fans. Toxic barrel is really good so he can watch the shutter with you. Fans and bats, this angle right here is actually really good because it denies the other combos demo from peeking bats. So depending on where my sniper wants to play, he can opt to peek there instead. risk from here instead with maybe like an engineer with a mini on top of him, or just play here to rotate, play above you guys on fans like this. Hopefully someone's doing spy check for him at this point because he might die to spy, because he is very isolated from this position. But yeah, both those places for sniper are really good. Spy will be behind, obviously trying to just give intel, and the cross to look for maybe picks on the sniper, the combo, or maybe even like a flank class that'll open up your flank to go for something in their lobby or something. But last class I haven't brought up yet is the soldier. Soldier on this position is actually very, very useful. I like to utilize my soldier a lot on demo on Astro because you're able to pivot off his positioning a lot. So the position I like to put my soldier in a lot is right here. Now this is going to be above shutter where barrels is, next to fans. This soldier can help you deny shutter by whenever they open the shutter like this, he can spam down on them. So whether it be a heavy, he can spam towards the right side like this, or you can spam down on the heavy here. From this position, you can also either bomb their ramp, or you can bomb their bats, either a high bomb off this wall or just a jump over the corner, or you can just high bomb onto this ramp right here and land on maybe a sniper or like an engineer playing there. So having that soldier, setting him up there will be only your benefit. One other thing I like to do as demo with my soldier is spam the shutter together. Like I said, instead of from playing here, I like to have my soldier peek a little bit wider like this and get that deep spam into the stairway here. If you're both able to spam this shutter deep like this, you can either maybe force the medic if he's playing right here, or you can kill a sniper if he's playing close to the shutter like right there or something. A lot of opportunities to just peek aggressively on that spam angle there. Most of the time, if you can't have them there though, say they have their flank classes like to run behind, you can always have your soldier play on your bats just to deny stuff running behind you. If the other team soldier like their flank also just go behind a lot, you can have your soldier play more of a passive position and look for that, because you'll have a bit more pressure on the shutter because you're not worried about like ramp players pressuring you, or like a flank pressuring you from bats or something, like a scout soldier. So yeah, soldier will be very important on this point when you have point. So he should be very versatile, kind of switching up his playstyle based on who the other team's flank is and what your combo demo needs from you. So the benefit of playing close to shutter on your forward hold is to deny the other team's combo from walking out of shutter for free without needing to use Uber, or just walk out to try to get cap time. You'll either force the other team's demo to either use your shutter with their Uber or go bats instead. Like I said, bats is a bit of a dangerous position for demo because sniper can be peeking the entire time, and your people bats and from point can spam them easy. All the while, if you go shutter, your demo, or it'll be you on demo, your team's demo trapping off the shutter aggressively, so they have to have someone on the other team clear the stickies at some point. Maybe a scout through seeker can clear these sticks for him, the other team's demo, and then if they do want to walk out like this, eventually they'll have to either peek a sniper or the people close, so they'll have to use early. And it is in your benefit as the team holding point to make them use earlier than later, because if they are able to walk out without using and they get onto point and exchange here, then they'll have a way better post Uber rather than using back here and you exchanging and meeting them, and then they'll have to either get out of shutter to kind of reposition, or to commit to walking out and maybe losing players on their ramp and then losing the fight entirely, and you just hold point again. So yeah, holding forward is preferred. If you're in a situation where you can't hold forward though, and you have to back up a little bit, make sure you have eyes on the shutter so you know that they're going to walk through it. And if they do end up walking through it, you do want to try and meet them through the point here and kind of make them use, especially if the medic walks through shutter, then you want to make sure he uses Uber as well. Well, yeah, because if they walk through shutter without using them, you're gonna have a lot harder time even holding the point at that time, because they're just gonna have all the space to walk out. So the team that is on the defense will have to make sure they force their other medic early. Another thing that might happen is, I brought it up earlier, but if the demo wants to roll out bats with this combo and drop off of bats, and make sure they can drop off of bats without using, it is important to note that if you do give them the bats angle and they're able to walk through fans and maybe drop off, you do again want to meet them to make sure that they use a little bit earlier than later. So if you can eventually Uber into them when they drop off of fans here, and they do need to drop off of fans with their medic before you want to take the exchange, then that is preferred. If their medic does not drop off of fans or bats and you call the Uber and you go into them and they don't use, then that was not the best Uber because their medic never dropped off and you were never able to get that free force. So kind of rules of thumb here, meet them at the shutter before they walk out to try to cap point with the Uber, and if they go bats, make sure you're able to force their medic on bats prefer that he drops down before you use into them. Okay, so let's say that you take the exchange, you lose a few people, and you need to get back up. Now, the times where you'll lose people on your defense is when people stay in during the Uber and feed, maybe. They get picked off by the sniper or spy, or people on your team, your other classes are not sure where to stand in the Uber exchange, and they might just die to the Uber. There's a lot of complication that can happen during an Uber exchange. So before we talk about what happens if you don't have point, let's talk about what happens if you lose players. How you're going to have your players position Ubers so you don't lose players. So primarily your Ubers are going to be kept on your demo in either your scout or your pyro. It's good to have a scout in your Uber so you can chase with the Uber. It's good to have a pyro in your Uber just to make sure they can deny the Uber. Most of the time I keep my pyro out of the Ubers, and it's just a demo and a scout. If you do have a good Uber, like a lot more Uber time than they do, you can have your pyro come in as well. But if it's an even exchange, I like to keep my scout in the Uber just so he can try and force the other medic to flash the other players on his team because the scout's running at them with Uber, or he can try to kill players that I've already gotten low behind the Uber. Say people on the other team are peeking too aggressively and I do a lot of damage, then my scout can go and kill those players. Positioning wise, for the people who are not taking your Uber, I would say, depending on who you have on your pyro, your NG playing towards ramp because they already have a setup there. Your heavy, depending if he's on ramp, it is preferred that he's not on ramp or he does not play ramp. Usually I put my heavy inside the shutter like this, so he can come in during the post Uber. But like I said, if I have no space on point during the Uber exchange and I have my Uber meeting them at the shutter, my heavy can opt to play like right here and then peek wide once the Uber fades because he's already in an aggressive position. Only thing about this is he could die to the Uber, so he needs to play a bit more passive. If they do opt to walk past my Uber and fight my heavy, a bit more passive angle, and then once the Uber is better, we call my you as the demo can call your Ubers better maybe, or call your players in. Then you can start walking forward and getting back into position to peek. Remember that depending on where the sniper's playing, your team should opt to play a little bit differently. So if the sniper is playing on the enemy team's ramp while they're pushing, you can have your combo play towards the shutter more like this. People who are not taking the Uber, or if the sniper's peeking from bats, same rule applies, kind of peek from this side. Sniper from shutter, that is a bit trickier because the sniper has a bit of an angle into your ramp as well. So I've seen people bait on this side of the point as well. Your heavy would be a really good player to bait like right here in this position, just because he has an opening from point and he's not getting instantly headshot from the shutter and the ramp if they ever have people there. But the rest of your team should know that if the exchange is, they need to be out of it so they don't get chased by the Uber, they don't get killed by the Uber, and they're able to come in after the Uber ends. Alright, so that covers all our bases. Spy, well, I guess I didn't bring up that. If Spy is behind the Uber exchange, it's good that he calls where their sniper is. He can come in post Uber if you want, and eventually get picks of people leaving, or he can help clean up kills on point with you if he wants to. And your sniper will also be doing the same thing. Sniper will be looking for picks during the Uber, but he also wants to try and live. If your team opts to put your sniper somewhere really passive and isolated during the Uber exchange so their Uber can't kill him, that also is fine, but make sure he doesn't just die to a spy or he gets bombed by a flank class. During exchanges, snipers can rotate the bats so they don't easily die on point. And also, this is to deny being on ramp. If the sniper's on ramp, a soldier will 100% bomb that. So bats is also a good answer if you want your sniper playing somewhere else. Alright, so that covered all our bases. So now if we go to the next thing, which is pushing point, we're going to be discussing losing point here. So losing point, if you have a bad exchange, you can leave through shutter. Like I said, leaving ramp is actually not a good thing because you can get caught with a spy, soldier bomb. So leaving shutter is always preferred because from shutter you can actually rotate to your bats instantly, or you can roll out to, you can just leave to spawn if you have to. But make sure that they're not just able to peek shutter, so I like to trap this off a lot of the time, especially during downtime. If you trap this off and the other team tries to peek it, you can get killed doing that. You can kind of keep your sticks up like that and hit that them eventually. Yeah, so say you don't have point and you want to learn how to kind of push out of spawn almost. This is kind of like entering the outside of your spawn, but it's lobby, right? If you want to try and push out of lobby, this is how. So the first thing you want to do is your team is going to try and regroup on bats and get buffed here. All the while they're going to be setting up a forward hold against you, so you want to try and learn how to counter that. So your whole team's going to get buffs. you as a demo, your main priority is to kind of organize your combo and your sniper maybe and your spy behind, and then you do want to try and learn to pressure the roof here, because again, like I said earlier, a scout's going to be playing on this roof to pressure bats players. So you as a demo, it's your job to kind of spam them off it, because no other class is going to be better at doing that other than maybe you and the sniper, I guess. But no hit scan, they're going to want to try and pressure this guy because he does have a little bit of high ground and he might have a buff, so it's a bit more dangerous to peek. So as a demo, you do want to try and prioritize spamming this. Once your team is getting ready to peek, whether it's a dry fight without Uber charge or you both teams have Uber and you're looking to take an exchange, there are a few things you want to do on demo in order to make this a successful push. First thing is deciding where your Uber wants to go, whether it's off of bats or through shutter. Personally, I like to take my Ubers off of bats, depending on if I have people peeking shutter with me and making sure their forward hold is no longer forward. But most of the time, if the team is really good at holding forward, you'll just have to go through shutter. Whether your sniper wants to peek from shutter with you, or he wants to go ramp with your flank, or he wants to go peek from bats as well, it's completely up to your sniper. But if you cannot peek off of bats, opt to go shutter. But if you can peek your people through shutter with your sniper maybe, or ramp, and you have a free space to peek from here, there's no sniper peeking you there, fans is always a very viable option as well. But just know that the minute your team drops off of here, the other team might be looking for an exchange around the corner. And if they do look for the exchange around the corner, make sure your team doesn't die to the Uber. But let's just discuss how fights should go. If you do walk out of shutter like this, again, make sure this is not trapped off. If you want someone to clear the stickies really easily for you, it's either someone from ramp that's already through ramp like this, or what I like to do is I have my scout roll out through secret. Scout rolling out through secret, it's just easy access from bats. You can drop down, run through here. Scout can easily run through here without getting pressure from this angle here or from the roof as well. And just run here and then shoot the stickies. They're going to be like 8 stickies on this shutter most likely. So, or maybe just one set of stickies above it. Your scout can just easily clear it for you, and then your heavy, your medic, your demo can all walk out of shutter after that. Now, remember that the sniper has an easy access to your shutter, just an angle from maybe toxic barrels, which is over there, the shutter, which is right there, and fans, which is right there. So if you're having a hard time dealing with the sniper when you're trying to walk out of bats or walk out of shutter, there are a few things you can do that kind of make it easier for you as demo. First thing is obviously just pressure him until he stops peeking you, but all the while you might be getting pressured by their combos, so it's not the best way to do it. In my opinion, the most efficient way of doing it is if the sniper is peeking from shutter, have your spy pressuring him. While the sniper is pressured, you guys can walk through shutter after that. It does take a bit of preparation, so make sure your team calls, or you call, I guess, or someone calls that we need to pressure the sniper here. And once the sniper's pressured, then you can try to walk in. It is not ideal that you stay in this shutter the entirety of that push. You want to try and walk out. If you stay in the shutter for too long, the other team's Uber will meet you, and then you're going to get stuck in here, and you're going to have to back out or commit to the fight, and eventually you end up losing it based off positioning. And it's going to be very hard from that position to actually win. If you do have worse positioning and you still want to try and fight this, then you'll have to have a lot of players in with you at the exact same time, fighting the stuff that's on top of you, or maybe on the roofs, or maybe killing the sniper or something. So kind of another rule of thumb as well is if you are going to push, try to make sure you're getting out of shutter and getting onto the midpoint. If you get stuck on the shutter, you will just have a way harder time winning. All the while, your pick classes like your spy are looking for picks behind or calling the sniper, and your sniper is looking to get in position from either angle, ramp, shutter, or even bats, just to peek the point and pressure with you so you don't have a hard time on demo just fighting this consistently. Exchanges on demo when you don't have point can either be on the scout as well, or if you want, you can always have a pyro in the Uber just to kind of air blast them away from point. Again, like for me personally, I like to have my scout in the Uber still, because as a scout, he's able to either push these guys out, maybe run to guys shutter who are not Uber, kill these guys, pressure the guys on their roof, or just overall just chase kills that I'm already pressuring, right, as demo. Now, if you don't want to have your scout in the Uber and you actually want your scout maybe rolling out on top of the roof like this, or maybe dulling on bats to eventually drop down, a pyro is a decent option. Just so the pyro can just stay in the Uber longer with you, they'll be able to kind of stay next to you and keep you safe from either the other team's demo or maybe a bombing player, or a heavy can air blast heavy away, etc. Right? Now, again, scout's probably the best thing to put in your Ubers and get used to it, just so he can kind of look for kills with you. And post Uber exchanges is kind of securing those frags that are caught in, looking for an opportunity to fight point for a longer period of time, and just overall just take over the points. So Scout would be a much better class at doing that personally. So, but if it's an even exchange, you do want to try and just spam the guy's shutter and spam the guys on ramp. You don't have much Uber because it's going to be on 2 people, so make sure you're counting the Ubers pretty well and you're able to trap off the people who are going to come in. Just hit the damage that you can in front and try not to die to the sniper post Uber and try not to die to the demo post Uber. If your team ends up winning the fight, you should obviously see them leaving shutter or leaving ramp, and then you can either chase them if they're still caught in or just trap off the shutter and then just worry about cap. And then retaking the point after they don't have cap anymore and you're recapping it for your spawners to come up. Make sure you're not dying to the sniper angle right here. So I like to pre-fire this angle right here, spam it a lot, and then also trap off the shutter like this. Kind of cover your bases like that, so the sniper can't re-peek your guy's capping point, because this is a huge angle he can peek from and it watches all of point pretty much. So yeah, make sure your team is getting really good at doing that. Just go there. This angle is also very popular amongst snipers. They will peek you in this angle and just completely deny you from point. And he can juggle between that angle and this angle pretty well, so make sure you're kind of watching both angles as demo and not trying to peek him too long until he headshots you. Now, there are a few things I'm just going to cover at the end here because it's just overall team stuff if you ever want to do it. On Asheville, it is very important that your spy calls what the other team is doing, whether it be behind them, he's calling where their combo is, calling where their sniper is, and calling where their flank is. So if their sniper opts to peek you at any point from an aggressive angle like their ramp, there are a few things you can do. First thing is you can spam ramp like this. You have an angle to spam right here. That's really strong. That will be covering the entirety of the top of the ramp for the other team to kind of look at and like be pressured by. So learning that angle is actually really good. Like I said, another trap you can do is inside the shutter like this. I like putting this stick a lot. This is a very good trap to do. Now, you don't have to watch this full time, but if you notice that you can actually hold it like this without peeking the sniper for too long, you can trap that and then dead on someone that drops through. Some people walk through this without checking the shutter. It's very hard to spot the sticks. Ignore that one, but it's really hard to spot the sticks if you run through like this. Wide, and it covers both angles like that, so you will kills doing that sometimes. Also, if people drop down like this into your stickies, they will die like that as well. And I've gotten a lot of picks on heavies and medics doing this, where you put the sticks right there, and then they walk past them, or they down like this from bats. They're rolling out like bats, and they drop down like this, and the sticks are there, and you kill them. So that's another trap you can do. When you're 4-holding point and you're scared of getting pushed from bats, you can always trap off this box like this. Either this trap if they're pushing you from the high ground, or on the box like this. These are very good traps to place, just in case you don't want to get instantly pushed by a scout or an NG. You can place those and that kills them usually. I think that's mostly it for demo. Last thing is, I guess when you're taking the Uber out of shutter and you want to make sure you get through shutter like this, you can always jump through the shutter to make it a little bit easier for you to get through. You will take that space initially, so if you want to have your medic lead the Uber on you through shutter, that's completely viable as well. And then your scout can just come in through and try to flash, or get them to flash people you lit, or just in general just kill them. So, all right.